Welcome to HCA Talks Health. I'm Zena le Roux, and with me today is Georgie Rutherford. So Georgie was a semi-professional triathlete, and she won the Amateur World Championships, and she's now also a co-owner and coach at the Long Run Collective, where she coaches athletes and weekend athletes to not just reach their goals, but also create long-term health, really helping them to develop their own personal value while also enjoying an active and a balanced lifestyle in a sustainable manner. So welcome, Georgie. I'm so glad that we get a chance to chat today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
Okay, so Georgie, tell us more. Tell us more about the Long Run Collective's initiative. What is your mission? What is your vision? What is it all about?
Yeah, I think you said it also just in that intro. Long Run Collective was formed by my sister and I, who have both been in sports since we were kids. We formed it coming up, 5-6 years ago. But Long Run Collective's purpose is to support people who are, probably in their 30s, 40s, 50s, who are starting to sort of feel as though they haven't got the time in life for themselves. I think it's quite common to see that once you sort of either start a family or you get into that real career crunch point of your life, if you're at the work from 8 till 6, including travel on either side of that and looking after your children, when do you have time for yourself? And we really wanted to help people show that you can do that. You can still go to events and have these goals. So let's say a half marathon, a 5K run, an open water swimming event. So if something excites you, don't say, I can't do that. Oh, lucky them. They must have this great life. It's achievable for everybody. And we have actually proved that time and time again over the last sort of few years, working really closely with people. So we are really proud of the message you're getting across. We are showing people that you can have it all, but just, we have this method of coaching where we show people they can have it all, but just not all the time. It's kind of like this life has ebbs and flows, and there'll be times in that year or maybe in that summer months when you can do a little bit more of what you enjoy, but there's other times in life where, so it's just kind of like taking that pressure off, but helping people find that nice flow to life rather than sort of feeling this crunch stress that work's important and that's it.
Yes. And I mean, it's easy to look maybe at a 20-year-old who is a professional athlete and they can dedicate all the time to their sporting goals. But if you've got a career and a family and juggling all of these different things, I think that's what you really focus on, is to help people to find that balance between work and life and all of these different fun events. So what does it mean? What does it mean to be athletic, but in a healthy and a sustained manner?
Yeah, sure. So just to jump back on that, I suppose as well, that Susie and I, who are with Long Run Collective, we're both in that same position. We are practicing what we preach. We're both mums. We both want to work and have an income. We both want to have a social life, but we didn't want to retire from our sports. I did triathlon and open water swimming to a very serious level. I trained 25 hours a week. And when I sort of retired from sport, people were like, oh, so you're going to stop now and you're going to grow up and you're going, it's like, hang on a minute, why do we neglect that? Why that attitude, especially in this country, in Britain, it can sometimes be really sort of negative towards, looking after yourself is deemed it's this like high reaching, not everyone can do it. And that's again really sort of frustrates us. Everyone can look after health. So a sustainable manner, it is showing that the timing doesn't matter. So you don't need to sort of say, I've been for an hour run or it doesn't matter. So sustainable means doing things consistently, little and often, finding a pattern that works best for you. So if you were to approach us at Long Run Collective, our first question is to you, let's realistically look, what's your time available, like the honest time availability that you can do consistently? It's an hour a week. Okay, great. 5 times 10, 5 times 10, 15 minutes a day, you can do something that will really impact, if that's one walk around the block every day, one, core circuit, some star jumps, a little bit of tennis with your kid, a bike around the block with your kids, walk with colleagues. There's so many ways just to move your body in what is suitable for you. So it's everyone's unique. So that's where it's sustainable, but one model doesn't suit everybody.
So is it more, do you support people to achieve certain goals in terms of events or races that they want to attend to, or is it also just general fitness?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I mean, initially, I think people approach us because they say they would, well, it's twofold. Lose some weight sometimes is the goal. There's often a goal. There's often a thing behind it that's a trigger. Because I think most people are ticking along in life, and unless they're inspired or sadly a health condition comes along, there's normally a catalyst to why they probably want to approach us. But yeah, we work with people who are completely new to sports. I do a lot of open water swimming coaching in the summer months in the UK, and people are coming to the open water swimming now for health purposes. They're seeing there's a big boom of going in a body of open water for like a dip. So they're not swimming to compete or stand on the start line. They're going in the lake just to enjoy it. So I often take people in. And this is really awesome as far as I'm concerned, because they're adults, they're trying something new, so they're doing something that scares them, and they're doing it purely for themselves, to feel good. But and there's no like, oh, I've done like 5 laps. There's no clock watching. There's no Strava or Garmin. It is purely for them, for their friends, to have some fun outside of the daily busyness, if you want to say. So it can be as much as that, or it can be a guy. I've got a guy now who's a father of 3 who wants to do an Ironman. And again, he's got a full-time job, 3 kids, and a wife and a family life to look after. So it's just showing him that he can achieve that goal. He can go and do this, the Ironman in a sustainable way. We've worked together over a year period rather than like cram everything. So we're open to all that. But I think we would turn you away if you came to us saying that you wanted to have a high volume neglect life training program. We're not the stereotypical triathlon running program coaches. We really monitor everything else that's going on, and make sure that we're so perhaps sometimes I kind of feel myself a bit more as an advisor, a bit of a counselor. I'm nutrition qualified, better psychology, so a nice mixture.
Okay, so there's many different elements and aspects that you look at when supporting an athlete. So what are some of these? So you mentioned, you're almost a counselor, you're a coach as well. You've got the nutrition background. So what are some of the other elements that you look at typically when you support an athlete?
Yeah, so again, the word athlete there is really important as well, because I personally feel as though everyone who is inspired to put on a pair of trainers, go to the gym, head to the pool, play some tennis, whatever, you are an athlete. You don't have to be this sort of stereotypical figure in a magazine or running a certain pace to be. I think, I would call all my clients like athletes if you are coming to do sport. But as I said, the first thing is we look at your time availability, and it's the honest approach to a program. I think, because what I would like is people to say like what can they consistently do? And that's how you get fit. It's not just one big heroic week, or so on the summer holiday have this heroic time. So we look at family life, your work, sort of your history. Do you have a background of a certain sport, and also what your outlook is for the rest of your life, right? Because our company name is Long Run Collective, and that does mean we're in it for the long run, and that doesn't mean going for long runs. We're in it to help you, as you said, the introduction, empower yourself. We don't want to be your coach forever. We want you to understand how to listen truly to your body and your mind, and get to know your body and your mind, so you can feel empowered to know, okay, today I feel a bit like this, I can adjust it, have that flexibility, but just enjoy the flow of your body. As we all age, we all evolve, and we have to adapt.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I think it's definitely an approach that people could do for the rest of their lives if they start listening to their own bodies. Like you said, it's not about you holding their hand for the rest of their lives. It's about also figuring out for themselves what works for them and what not. So what are the things that typically come in the way? So what would you say are the things that come in the way for people to being fit and athletic in a healthy and a sustained manner?
Time is the time, and again, depending on what type of job you have as well, is obviously a huge factor. And that's, we can't sort of everyone pretty much has to work, and it means leaving the house quite early. And so I think it's always time. How can we help that person find ways that are fun to fit in around their time, so that we don't want people to sort of feel like a pressure. It's meant to be something they're doing out of choice, as a hobby, to enjoy. This isn't their job. So it's working out ways to incorporate it. Now, that in the workplace, I do work with companies, And I think it's top down, you can really work with your colleagues, and even if you have the opportunity, your boss, to sort of encourage, because again, we're probably at work the most during our, time in our week. Is like, let's say an average person works 40 hours a week. So therefore, that's a great way for people to sort of have the opportunity, perhaps in their lunch break, to do something with their colleagues, to move, to keep their fitness going. So we do to try and get work going with companies to sort of inspire their bosses to empower their staff to be fit and healthy. Because you're more productive when you're feeling good, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's really not about the shoulds. There's enough shoulds that we need to deal with in our everyday lives, but it's really about what do you enjoy, and also having this sense of purpose outside of our careers, I think is a really healthy, approach.
Yeah, I think the number of times I hear people say, oh, like, and I get it, because I used to work in event management in London, and my head would be full of things I needed to do, like, but I have to be honest, I have done sports since a young age, so I do have that motivation and that internal knowing that it will help me feel better. So I think if you're new to something, it's quite hard to grasp that your head's full of noise, of work, and got to do this, got to do, and actually for taking that time out, perhaps to walk around the block, go and do a little bit of boxing, go to have a game of tennis, go for a swim, lift some weights. Actually, what it does is lets that brain take a break. It releases a lot more. And I often find that people say to me, you were right, I came back to the desk and I had more ideas. I did feel better. I was nicer to my colleagues. I was nicer to my wife. And, and that's, I think, the biggest hurdle when we're in our sort of 30s, 40s, 50s, when we're feeling the pressure of earning more money, we neglect ourselves as a result of that. So it's kind of showing people that don't have to go for an hour. You can, there's micro chunks to get this sort of break away from the desk to kind of calm and it will, of course, and in turn help with all the cardiovascular perhaps issues. It helps with a bit of weight loss, muscle tone that we lose as we get older, fights diabetes, all the health conditions that sadly come as we age. You can take control of very simply.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so it's not necessarily about just naturally feeling motivated to take these steps from the very beginning. Sometimes there is maybe an element of choosing to do something, even if maybe you don't feel like it in that moment, right?
Definitely, right. I think there's, or even in every aspect of life, motivation comes and goes. Some days, quite often, especially we were talking about the start there about the weather, that impacts a lot of things in this country at the moment. We're not having this amazing summer, and that can really impact how you feel motivation wise. And I don't think motivation is there all the time for anything in life. Even at work, you're not motivated every day, but you still show up because you're being paid. So perhaps if you approach your own body a bit like that, you're paying your own body to look after you so you can age and have fun when you retire.
Yeah, so
You
it's
might
really
take it a bit more seriously.
Yeah, exactly, and it's really connecting with that why as well. Putting every single action that you put into place, or going for the jog, going for the walk, connecting it with that why. What will it give me? How am I treating my body, and almost rewarding my body to a certain degree?
Definitely, yeah.
So you've got quite a wealth of experience in the field of training, racing yourself, also coaching in endurance sports. So just tell us a little bit more about your background and what you've achieved as an athlete.
Yeah, sure, thanks. So my background has always been very active. As I said, I was kind of probably a bit of a tomboy, but I never grew up wanting to be an athlete. I never grew up wanting to be sitting here today as a coach. I had no plan at all. And it kind of has just evolved naturally. I did follow my siblings through running and swimming, but I also played hockey and netball and tennis. And so I led a very active life up until the point I went to university. And then at university, there was one of the performance centers for triathlon, and I'd done a talent sort of spotting thing. The British triathlon squad had like a talent spotting thing. So I got put onto the GB sort of talent for triathlon, and that did just change everything for me. And I got swept up into the world of triathlon. Now I started to learn to ride the bike on a road bike at the age of 18, and really started focusing on my swim training and my running, things that I'd done, but not in my brain and at any level of seriousness. I never really followed a training plan. And so at the age of 18, 19, when I thought I was going off to uni to party and to get on with my career, it was flipped upside down, and I trained very hard with a squad full of Olympic athletes around the poolside all the time. And Yeah, and it really did help give me this whole structure to life, and very like probably like going into a military, like this discipline,
Mm,
which I then taken through with me to like my 20s and 30s. So although I had no aspirations to be an Olympic triathlete, I did compete very seriously as a triathlete and had great success throughout my 20s, alongside keeping my career going in sport management. And that's what I mentioned. I lived in London and I really wanted to work at the Olympics in 2012, but alongside that did have great success as an amateur triathlete, winning the world championships. And so I have to admit, I was very selfish back then. I could be, right? I could be. I knew it was a time of my life where I could just do what I wanted. I kind of got away with it. I'm not really sure how. I did work very hard. I did train hard, but I didn't do anything else. I had no other commitments. I could do that. And I did go all in. I did at the age of 30 quit my job to try and see how the best I could be. I suppose it's a similar leap sometimes in work. You take that promotion to see where you can go with it, and I did try, but I have to admit, yeah, I don't think I was cut out to be a professional athlete. I didn't love the not being busy. I like being busy. I like helping others. I like being out and about. And as a professional athlete, you really, really do have to, yeah, it's everything. It's all encompassing, and you have to be very, it's not the sacrificing of the social activities that I think I found hard, but it was the pressure. That was it. That your race start line was your income, your sponsorship requests and demands. I didn't really understand that. I didn't have an agent or anything. So yeah, I think it was great to try, but this is how Long Run Collective formed. I realized that, that wasn't my path, but helping others, making sure that they could look after their own ambitions is much more rewarding for me.
So you really know what it feels like to be so focused on winning and competing, and you just found that there's no balance in that, and you want to have more balance in your life. And I think that's really what, if I understand correctly, what Long Run Collective is all about. It's about finding a way to find that balance and to have a social life and to still focus on a career, but
Yes.
also enjoy being an athlete and being someone who can still race and be competitive if you want to.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I will tell you a case study of a woman, and she will not mind me sharing this with you all today.
Yeah.
I first met her through her husband. Her husband had always been a runner. Like, he was labeled a runner. We get labeled in society. She was not a runner. She enjoyed working really hard, having social life. And this time when we were all out at the pub one night, sort of having some drinks, and she said, "Oh, no, I don't run. I don't do it." And I said, "Oh, would you never fancy?" And she said, "Oh, I would, but it's not what I do. My body can't do that." And I said, "Well, okay, fine, if that's what you feel like." But then she was intrigued because I put on this beginner walk run program. And so she came along to that. And it was a 5K, and then we built up to a 10K. Now, this was quite a slow process, and they were running twice a week. And now, so people listening who are runners, you think, "Oh, running twice a week is not going to." She ran twice a week consistently, and over time, she got fit enough to run a 10K. And she was blown away, and she didn't think, suddenly she was like, "Oh, I'm the one I am able to run." Now, she was in her mid to late 30s. This has now been, 6 years on. She now she has a triathlon season now. She does sprint triathlons over the year. She still is the same person. She still has her own business, very successful, her same social life, trains a few times a week, but she now does triathlon, and she prefers it to running because it means one swim, one bike, one run a week.
Yeah.
15 to 20 minutes, she really hasn't got much time, but she is able to achieve her goal of having a full triathlon season.
Wow. So it really often is just the way we see ourselves. So often, I guess there's a lot of mindset work that you also need to do with clients.
That's it. But obviously that came naturally from that. There was no forcing of that narrative, but I think sort of if you've been always known as the person that, or someone has said to you at some point, "Oh, you can't be X, Y, Z," or whatever, I think it does stick with you, and you don't really realize that there's a sort of subconscious labeling going on.
Of course, yes. And it goes both ways. You are a runner, and maybe you don't feel like you are.
And not everybody, and bodies aren't, because again, there's another thing I think that frustrates me as well. We sometimes see that people say, "Oh, well, I haven't got a triathlon body," or I haven't got a runner's body. And it's like, everybody is body's capable of doing a little bit of, if you would like to do it, you know.
Yes, exactly. So it's quite interesting because I can see that you're really emotionally involved as well with your clients, and you care about them, and like you said, there's many different aspects that you look at. So can you give us a little bit of insight into, from a coach's perspective, from a health professional's perspective, what it's like to work with athletes and supporting people in this way? What is it like?
It's really rewarding. I think coaching is really rewarding. I think I've definitely learned over, and it's all, you're all forever learning. We're all, you know, all our clients that have come and gone or still with us are unique. So there's a lot of more time involved than I think some people realize. If you would like to be a coach that truly empowers people, because at the end of the day, that's the goal. You know, you're not like wanting to, I suppose it's like going to a doctor. You go to a doctor to sort of feel better, and as a coach, I want to empower people to, you know, remember that they can look after themselves for their long-term life. So the goal really is to always listen. And that's something that is quite hard to do. True communication is actually best about listening. So that's really important for us at Long Run Collective. We're not a huge company because we prioritize communication at the forefront. It could be our business model downfall, and I'm sure, you know, those who are hungry to have these huge empire businesses would be like, oh no, that's not. But it truly is, to truly help people, you truly have to have this kind of trust and communication as the core, and then people can sort of really lean into you. And so I think that's the kind of the key principles of what you would get from community, from Long Run Collective. And again, when we start with people, I'll say it might not suit you. You might not really enjoy, if you're quite used to sort of setting your own thing, you might not kind of want this kind of extra person in your life communicating with you, checking in on you, asking how your sleep is, you know, kind of almost being your sort of your prop to kind of make sure you're all right and getting through. But those that do work with us, yeah, this kind of have this like weekly dialogue, and, you know, WhatsApp groups, and, you know, make sure people, it's sort of to value each person as unique, but bring them into this Long Run Collective community where there's like-minded other people from around the world who had that same epiphany moment as them, that goes, oh yeah, do you know what, I can, and I'm meeting other people that are like me. They want to have this change in their life in a good, so yeah, there's a whole mixture of things that come to it, but it's extremely rewarding, and I think as a coach you just need to learn, and I've had to learn to listen, to be patient, and to trust. You know, they're the kind of three things.
And that's so important, the listening. I think as a health professional, it might be tempting to just, barge in there and tell someone what it is that they need to do, or what worked for you, or what worked for your previous client. And that's not necessarily what's going to work for this person sitting in front of you. And you'll only know that by really listening out what's really going on for them.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's something, I don't always get it right. I think that's it. You, as a health professional and as a coach, you're constantly keeping up to date with the latest research. You know all the methods, you studied it, you've practiced it. So yeah, you've been there, you wanted to see that person succeed at the end of the day. So sometimes that passion can come across too much, too strongly, because you want to always have an answer. You feel like that's what the client wants, but actually it's not. Sometimes they just need to,
be heard. So you've mentioned that you work with your sister. So how do you work together? What does the dynamic look like?
Yeah, so it constantly evolves, to be honest, as well, which is like the beauty of a business, and one that's open to reflection and to growth. Prior to COVID, my sister lives in America. She's married to an American. She's been there for 13, 14 years now. So communication is so easy thanks to the internet. So we communicate daily. We have our own clients and we work with them on a one-to-one basis, but then we come together for united projects, so training camps, workshops. We just hosted our first sort of welcoming trail running event where we wanted people to discover the trails for the first time. So she's in the UK at the moment for that. And so, yeah, it's sort of a mixture. And we do sort of internal long run collective workshops online, which, evolved probably thanks to COVID. So there's no real reason for us not to work together. But we have our own individual ways of coaching. We're very different people. Susie's got more of a yoga background than I do, so her sort of perhaps a little bit more calm sometimes than I am.
Okay, and what specifically are the options that you offer? So how can people find out more, and what are the specific options that you offer clients?
Yeah, sure. So like, I suppose every business, we have our Long Run Collective website, and we've really honed in we have two services that we offer people. So we have our long road coaching program, which is a sort of, it's monthly, two packages, and both are monthly programs. One is simply more communication, more involvement in your goals. So perhaps if you're doing your first big event, I would suggest that's something that I would look at. So you get more time with us. We kind of program things, but things are programmed weekly because life changes on a daily basis. And to me, you can go online and download a 12-week marathon training program, but you'll go out on a Saturday night and you might or you might pick up a cold and family parties coming up, and you're going to miss training days. And so that's why we have these weekly flexible programs. That's why communication is so key, so people can adapt and a training react things. So the long run program is much more reactive. And then we have our mentorship program for people who are perhaps a bit more confident with how to look after themselves, but are unsure about how to have that structure. And just, again, it perhaps just want someone to lean in on to get some just backup to make sure that they feel like they're getting things, right, or could perhaps change things. And that could be with their strength training, perhaps with a little bit of yoga, their mobility and flexibility, their nutrition, mindset work and lead up to an event. So again, there's a whole host of ways we can look at it. So I often say to people, if you're not sure, just approach us and let's work out if there is something and there is a way. And sometimes, there isn't. Sometimes we're not the right fit for somebody, and that's okay,
Yeah, that is. Okay, that sounds fantastic. So I think maybe, just thinking about everything we've talked about, and if there's perhaps anything else that you maybe want to leave our listeners with, maybe someone listening today, any last messages that you want to leave them with?
Sure. Well, I think we sort of started about talking about how Long Run Collective is also about your sustainable. And I suppose something else that we're working on is the actual impact we make as humans to the environment in a sustainable way. So I suppose as well, we do encourage people to sort of look at their sort of the impact they're having on their lifestyle with what they're doing. So we do have a separate sort of arm to our company, which we're sort of asking people that we work with, our clients and our athletes in the community who are around us, to look at their sort of small daily actions that have not just an impact on their own long-term health, but on the community and the environment around them. So if that's something of interest, I think it's really great because we have a community of athletes, and they perhaps go out for runs at a weekend and they do a bit of plugging. So they'll pick up some litter as they're out for their run, or they volunteer to do like a beach clean. And we try and incorporate and encourage people to be sort of a bit more mindful about what products they're using for their athletics ability. You'd be using trainers, recycling things, single-use plastic usage, and involved with that message, I suppose, is something we're trying to really work with people now on, car sharing to training, car sharing to events. So sort of thinking about their own health, but how they can help the bigger picture of the world in a sustainable way as well.
Oh, great. So it's really about connecting the training and athleticism to the world at large, to also doing something positive for the planet.
And the future generations, right? Maybe for their children, or I don't want to get too preachy. And we try our best. None of us are, we're all sort of in it together. And I personally feel like the only way we can actually do it is if we just make our own small little decisions, that we can afford and we can do. Maybe that's just down to simply what the foods we choose at a supermarket and they're not in packaging. Then be it, or how we get about, whether we can walk a bit more and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I think when we're training out there, when we're swimming in the oceans and running in the forest, then we are quite exposed to, the environmental conditions. So,
Yeah, sure.
so I love how you brought these two elements together because it will be impacting us directly, but also, like you said, for future generations. So, really having a bigger purpose while also
Yeah,
staying fit.
that's it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you so much, Georgie. It was such a joy to hear more about your your lovely initiative. So staying injury free and having some lovely sporting goals, but also being happy and healthy, I think could really make the world's difference to athletes and to people who just want to stay fit. Um, so thank you so much. Thank you for sharing more on how exactly our listeners could do that. And I think that anyone would benefit so much by working with you. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
Nothing. Pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
If you have a passion for health and wellness and you would like to make a difference in the lives of others and discover a new rewarding career in health and well-being coaching, visit www.healthcoachesacademy.com to find out more.